City Council on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, met in the Council Chamber on June 1st, 2026 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the matters of the fiscal year 2027 operating budgets of the following departments: inspectional services, electrical, fire department, traffic, and parking. From the Committee on Administration and Finance, we have Councilors Sidoriak, Councilors Flynn, Councilor King, and Councilor Tarowski. From the Committee of the Whole, we have Councilor Smith. Also in attendance are Finance Director James LeBlanc, Mayor Pangalo, Chief of Staff Lisa Peterson. From Inspectional Services, we have Ula Orfanos. From Electrical, John Giardi. And from the Fire Department, Chief Dion. Welcome, everyone. We do not take public comment with our budget meetings, but we encourage the public to reach out to us at citycouncilors@salem.com. There is an echo. Yeah, please. Check, check. Check, check, check. No more echo? All right.
It's that one for your echo.
Okay, thank you. All right, folks, we are going to start with inspectional services. So we'll welcome Vula Orfanos. This is going to be on tab 15 with the budget summary on page 446.
Good evening, everyone. I am Vula Orfanos, and I am Inspectional Service Building Commissioner, and also we have facilities and public properties in our department. Tonight, I am here to present my budget, and I am, in our department, I am the building commissioner. I have 2 building inspectors that work underneath me, and we have an open position for one. My facilities director, Mike Crounce, is also here tonight if anybody has questions. And also, our weights and measures, a plumbing inspector, also 2 clerks, and 3 maintenance. We have 1 right now filled position and 2 that we're looking for. So our department is trying to do a great job on that. So I'd like to start with our goals and objectives are to assist constituents and businesses in every way that we can to streamline as much as we can applications for permits, enforcement in a way that we can do by permitting applications in any way. We're trying to streamline our permits right now to be a little bit easier as far as it'll be not as complicated, and we're working with IT, and I said a little bit more last year to try and do this, and it's hard when you integrate in permits, and it's a newer system the last 3 years that we've had, and in code enforcement we're trying to do. But our goal is to make it a lot easier for everyone to work with the community to get as much compliance and information that we can to them to make it easier. One of our objectives is with our goals, our open gov, like I said, the permits, just always serving the community. And doing our sustainability, we have a lot of new codes, energy codes, and we're trying to do it with our buildings and educate also constituents and businesses with our new sustainability with the energy codes and things like that also. We're always supporting the community in ways that we get lots of calls with enforcement, and we're trying to do it, example, with compliance, with safety in the sense that somebody might not have a permit for something. Somebody might not have a registration for a short-term rental or unregistered vehicles. I'm just trying to go like different things that we do in our department. It's not just building permits. We do a lot of things, and our goals are trying to assist as many people as we can in our residents and businesses. And now we're trying to, even with our facilities, hopefully we can get streamlined a little bit more with incorporating some of the buildings with the offices and, making it more sustainable, to use in the spaces with the city. Let's see. I'm not sure if you have any questions on that. I was trying to explain a little bit. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that part. Do you want me to go through anything else?
If you want to go through everything, and then we can save all the questions for then.
Yep, definitely. And then you can see our actual FY25 building permits was the amount there, the $2,678,000 FY25, and then we had an estimated of an FY26, but I just want to update that to the current right now, because we did those early on, and right now we are at 4,124. That's certificates, inspections, building permits, gas permits, anything that would come in that we would issue any kind of permit for, or a certificate or inspection. And right now, the revenue is not at that. It's at $3,031,000 right now. And our fiscal year will end in July. So I just wanted to update that for the FY26. So we are a little bit more than what we thought we were. And we're estimating FY27, $2,400,000. We have lots of projects in the pipeline, and that's why we're foreseeing like the bigger projects with the building permits coming in on that one. In our revenue that comes in, it's building permits. There are annual inspections that we have that are called 110 inspections, which are daycares, schools, restaurants. Restaurants that have a liquor license, we call it a 304 inspection, so that's an annual inspection. We do multifamily, starting 3 units and above. Those are starting at 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, depending on if we find violations, and the state allows us to go in annually if we have any problems. And then we have a new code change that came in our new 10th edition that starting right now, that we have to inspect the short-term rentals every year or within a 5-year period because of code compliance, and that's called a 110 inspection. So that's coming into our, for our building department. We do them in conjunction. I do zoning review with those that come in, the applications, and the health department starts the review on the short-term rentals, and then I look at it and approve for zoning. But now I'm going to have to physically have an inspector go out and do inspections on all the short-term rentals along with the health department. We're trying to implement this and put it together because there's some questions on if some short-term rentals will have to get sprinkler systems depending on how big they are, and we're trying to streamline that through the state. So that's another process. So we're hoping by next January I can have that started, and if I can fill my position also with the code enforcement officer that I'm down right now. So that talks a little bit about our performance measures and what we've had for permits and annually what we're doing. So in our salaries, I had requested to have an inspector, either plumbing or building. As you can see, we have lots of permits coming in and a lot of different projects and different compliance that we do. Snow removal is another one. There's lots that our department does, zoning. It's not just a building permit that comes in or a plumbing permit. So we have requested for more assistance in our department for in there. So it looks like I'm definitely for at least a part-time inspector for now. If we could do that, that would be great. It would definitely assist in getting a lot of, at least code enforcement. We can get to permits, review a little quicker, and assist with constituents. We try to as fast as we can, but having more help will definitely get us to be able to fulfill that. And then our costs have not changed much of what we're requesting. like our safety gear, we're keeping it at a straight level, and our safety gear is like our PPE, which is our goggles, like hats, things that we wear, like our jackets, things like that out in this field, safety gear. So I keep that at a level base that we need. Contracted services is all our fire alarm that we have, like in this building, panic buttons, annual companies that come in, pest control, so those are pretty much staying at the same. We haven't done much of a change on that. If I go by something that I'm missing, let me know. I'm trying to go in order so I don't miss something. And I had mentioned about our staffing change, that our foreman retired, and then our electricity, we try to foresee, just from where we are, this is our fixed cost, sorry. We try to see like electricity and gas and oil from previous years, and then just, we try to forecast of, how each quarter it changes or every month the bill. So those are a little hard, and we're trying to keep it conservatively enough that what we're going to see for changes with water and all those. So we have a little bit of change there in the electric part, and this is for our building we have here, and we have the annex and also the community life center that we have in our property there. Let's see, telephone, a lot of the fixed costs, we haven't had significant changes. Like I said, the utilities is the most that we're forecasting to see ahead. Postage is another one that we did ask a little bit more. We are going to have elections. We have talked to the clerk's office, and I think we might have some postal increases too, so we're trying to be a little bit ahead of that too for the postal increases. So we did ask for that. Let's see. Our zoning, we just kept it the same for the zoning Board of Appeals. On that, we didn't increase any of that. In our contracted services, we did request a $4,000 to have for outside when we need something that happens to a building or any type of service, like we have or if we see something that we need to implement into our buildings. Example, when we put the safety for the panic buttons or something, or if I need a contractor to come in to fix something, things like that. So that's what the contracted services are, for the extra funds there for that. And also, we're going to keep the same for the contract services, like we have people that clean our carpets and do the windows and things like that. I don't know if I missed anything, but please feel free to have any questions if I went along the pages.
Thank you very much, Vila. That was great. Yeah, I'm sure counselors will jump in if there's anything they wanted you to speak to. Questions from the council? President Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Davis, not being a member of the committee. And yes, thank you. That was a really thorough overview of the department, and I always learn a lot from all the department heads. Appreciate you coming in. Comment that I appreciate the increased oversight for short-term rentals from you and the health department. That's something we've all collectively been working on, and I'm sure it does take up a lot of staff time, but it's been noticeable and appreciated.
Thank you.
So that's really good news. I was curious about one of the things listed in recent accomplishments, where it says continued implementation of security measures to city public buildings. And I was just a little curious as to what that refers to. And said, happy to see it on there.
Yeah, so we definitely have started with our panic buttons, doing cameras. And then our badges badging in, that controls who has access to buildings and what times. And Mike, our facilities director, we're definitely looking into any other measures that would make our buildings more secure, that would fit into our budget. It could be something like if we have an alarm, we're going to look at, like they have one at the library. Mike assisted getting their cameras in this year. We did last year at the Community Life Center. So things, anything with security, like panic buttons, cameras, badges, any type of security that we can do. We're trying to think of different ways. Even offices that don't have secure ways, we might look at somehow to put like something up. We're looking even at the health department upstairs, a little more secure so people can't get behind the counter, to secure a little bit more for the public to have a counter, but not to be able to get in as easy. Like different security things we're trying to think of.
Thank you, it's appreciated.
Did that,
Yeah, no, that answers the question. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Tarowski.
Thank you, Chair Davis, and thank you, Ms. Arfanos, for explaining all of that. I know you guys are super busy, as Councilor Merkel was saying. I wanted to talk about some things on page 445. Just if I understand what you said correctly, you said that your actual revenues for 2025 are over $3 million already.
yeah, yes. Actually, for right now, our 26 budget, yep.
Okay. Do you know, that's a pretty significant increase over last year. Do you know what's contributing to that?
We have a lot of large projects that just put in building permits. I don't have the specific ones, but a lot of large projects just put in building permits.
Okay.
So that will significantly bring it up.
And that's probably something that wouldn't necessarily carry forward into the year after, right? Or do you expect
It shouldn't, but next year we are looking at some other projects that are coming in that we're looking at.
Okay.
On Canal Street, we have the other one, the Salem State, up there at SSU, on Endicott Street. So there's a bunch of projects that should be coming in.
El Centro?
Yeah. Yes, in El Centros, yes.
Really excited
Yes.
about that one.
So,
I had a question too, just in general about the Clean It or Lean It program. Is that like a float fund? Like when you have a building that needs to be addressed urgently, when you take money out of that fund, does it come back into the fund, or does it go into the general fund, or could you just explain that a little bit more clearly?
yes, so the Clean It or Lean It fund could be, if I come across a building that's dangerous and I need to take something down because the owners aren't there to do it, if a porch is collapsed. So I would, imminent danger, I would have a board-up company come there or take it down, and at that point, we would send them a bill. They have so much time to pay it, and then if not, it gets attached to the property, it gets liened, and then it goes to the solicitor office to do that for us.
And then if you recover the money from the lien, does it go back into that account to replenish it?
That one goes to the general fund, and then we would just ask for it again at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. And I appreciate again all the work with the short-term rentals. We know that's a hot topic in the city nowadays. And I think I recall when we were talking about the city clerk's office that you guys are now in charge of mailing out dog licenses and tags now that that system has been migrated to online. Is that?
So we do not. The city clerk's probably does the online service, but we do all the mail-in through our office. Yeah, we're in charge of all mail. It comes through our office.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it makes sense that as that ramps up, you would be asking for more money for postage.
Yes, so that does happen, yes.
Waste. They
Yep.
have a weight to them.
Yep. One of the other thing was like the ballots, there might be a little bit more information on it, so the postage might cost a little bit more. So it's another cost that would be coming in through us.
And I think my last question is, I noticed that often, like if looking at page 453, often when you're going by the annex at night, there's a couple entire floors the lights are on.
Oh.
So if we're spending $50,000 a year to provide electricity for that building, have we looked into anything like auto shutoffs for the lights or motion detectors?
Mike and I have been in conversation, because I'm not sure why they did that. You have to have it for safety reasons, so if somebody enters it for an emergency, the light should come on. So we're trying to think of a way to have the building manager work with us to get it in sensors. So at least if you come into the building, the lights will go on, because you have to have it for first responders, and it's in the codes. So we have thought about it, and Michael and I have been working with the owners there of the building, the managers, to see what we can do, and hopefully the cost will be on them.
The city doesn't own that building, right?
We do not own the annex, so unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, that's all my questions.
So we have been working on that. You see that, because I think the same thing. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I-
need to turn these lights off, but have them on for emergency reasons when they come in the building.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Welcome.
I'm glad to hear you're looking into it.
Yeah.
Counselor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. All right. So first question, I have a few questions on personnel, but I guess the first question is going to be around ticket, under the revenue section. So what I don't see here are any tickets, citations, things issued for anything from, building code building violations for improper building, or what else would you do? Abandoned property? We have something on that. Snow removal. What do you have numbers?
I have a little bit on snow removal. As far as all the violations, we're trying to work on a program that we can extract information by when we issue it and work with other departments. Unfortunately, we haven't come across a program that would track all our violation tickets that we're doing.
And then
besides collectors, yeah.
To the collector's office?
Yes.
So
We could, through collectors, get a data thing, but I'd like something, when we're issuing it, you write the violation letter, now it tracks it that way through our OpenGov. It's a software I'm trying to hopefully implement, code enforcement.
is not paid, would you be able to look?
So for snow tickets,
Not paid.
collectors should be able to definitely get information.
Tell who is not paid for, okay.
Yes.
Somebody can. That's
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I can tell you with snow tickets, I did get some
Oh, yeah.
information. So we have, right now, unpaid tickets of 53, and that's about $6,955. Paid tickets of 33, and that was $5,050. Abated people that appealed some of the tickets, there were 30 that abated. The amount was $2,775. The ones that were abated, only 3 were not paid, so they only owe $150 on those ones. All the ones that were abated to take care of the ticket. These are 40U tickets I want to explain to you also, that they need to get paid, and if they don't, this is what got voted in by the council, and it would go onto the property liened, and this is one way that the city can recover any money, and not just for snow tickets, but other ways if we write a 40U ticket to get it back. And it'll go into the tax, and I forget how the whole process, that's a little bit more the legal department, but
perfect. Okay, so 115 tickets were issued for a total of 14,600 something dollars. It's pretty significant.
Yep.
But I can see why.
that's for snow tickets.
You're in the millions over here. So yeah. That's good. So on page 447, the personnel summary, I love to try to guess based on hire date who everybody is. We won't do that here, but is one of these Mike Fabiano, like somebody's left? Let's say.
So Mike Fabiano is the code enforcement officer that.
That's the one that's open.
Yep, that's open. Yep.
Hiring date of 2025, that is open.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
that needs to be replaced.
Yes.
And then on top of that, it also looks like in the next line, you were looking for an extra building inspector. The line has been crossed out. The total department request is about $72,000 more than the $69,000 more than the proposed. Would that be correct? So that was, you were trying to get another
Inspector.
inspector. So right now, you're down 1 to 2 people.
Right. I'm down one position that was filled last January, and then Mike Fabiano unfortunately left this January of 26. He was hired in 25, and in 26, he's no longer with us. So we have an ad out, actually.
So there is some, okay, so that one's
There's an opening. Yep, there's an opening.
no, but that one is
Yes.
it's opening, okay.
Yes.
And then in terms of the building custodian, I saw Luis a minute ago.
Yeah, so.
That's good, he's here.
Yes, so we have one custodian. He's a junior custodian. We're hiring a senior custodian, because unfortunately, our senior custodian's no longer here. And then we have a foreman that is no longer, that is in charge of the custodians and does more of our maintenance type, if a door breaks, things like that.
So 3 weeks ago, you were down 30-something% of the department.
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess my question's going to here, who is doing the code enforcement, and how does that come into you?
We all are.
You all have to-
I am doing it, Greg, and we all do it anyways year-round, but I had Mike Fabiano focus a little bit more to make sure he's following up. Sometimes we get so busy, you'll go out, you'll do a violation letter, or you'll do a compliance, or do a required inspection, and then we have to follow up. And unfortunately, sometimes you might get 30 other items that come in. And then not that we let things go, but you prioritize. If we have a safety, if we have a car that went into a building or a fire, and now we have to deal with that situation. So unfortunately, we're going in 20 directions, so you try to, okay, now we got to help the people that just lost their home because there's a fire. What are we going to do next? We got to get them up and running. So if someone has a car that's unregistered, it might fall on the bottom. It's important, but I have to go, prioritize with the two inspectors that are in my office and myself, but we all do the code enforcement, even with a code enforcement officer. But that person would definitely focus a little bit more to make sure they're following up and we're doing what we have to do to make sure we get compliance. And it's a little harder if you don't have someone focusing as much when you're getting pulled in a few directions.
And so is that looking promising? I'm just concerned because
I'm a little concerned, no.
Okay. Yeah.
We haven't hired anybody. So.
okay, yeah, no, and I know that's maybe getting a little bit off of the budget, so I'll move back on. But it is particularly important because I think it hopefully will explain some things because, I know looking around the city sometimes. I have 5 properties that touch my property. 4 of them are doing work right now. It's everywhere, and 2 of them are doing it illegally because they work on.
And their address.
Because they know. What's that?
You can send me their address.
I will. I have. No, I have, and that's the thing is sometimes people do things on Sundays or they'll do things outside of when they know that they can't have enforcement against them. And so I guess that's the biggest concern here is it's not necessarily pulling away from the budget, but it is trying to make sure that this stuff actually gets fulfilled. This council is going to grant or approve of this level of funding, and we want to make sure that it's spent in a way that serves the community as well. And then the job also can't get done to make sure that customer service aspect of, going back and helping people through their permitting process or helping people through because you're pulled in so many directions, as you said. So that just concerns me, and I'm glad that you at least have the problem here and you've listed it out, what you need, and I hope that we can all make that happen for you and that you can hopefully find somebody. The last thing that I'll just say is why would it be is about that online permitting process that you put in here. Why, to the end of 2027, how come that is so far out? And I know, is it challenges with the IT department? It says, so it's the top of page, oh geez, it doesn't, it's under the little yellow hat, the first thing in the picture on 443.
We'll continue to do it right now. It's just, we haven't found a software that will work, so it works with our violation letters and being able to implement the code enforcement. Is that your question, why we're saying 27? We're hoping it'll be in 20. Believe me, we're actively looking, and I'm always communicating with our IT department to see what we can do for that.
Okay.
And even other departments, I've asked, reaching out to other communities. We have our annual monthly meetings with other inspectors, and I've asked other communities too how they do it, and a lot of them have a hard time. There are some, we haven't found one that OpenGov has specifically right now that will work with what I'm trying to put together for our department. So hopefully we're going to come before 27. I'd love to have it this month.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. And that's where my concern lies,
Yeah.
is I'm very worried, I'm worried because I at least hear a lot about this, I hear about a illegal wall on Northeast Street, an abandoned property on Pleasant Street, a illegal automotive place on Spring Street, illegal driveway on Bridge Street. I get this every day. I'm getting stuff that's and there's no one to necessarily go out there. So I really want to hopefully you can hire somebody because it feels like it really is necessary, and we're going to allocate this budget, we want to see it used, is what I'm
I do want to clarify, though, if something is brought to our attention, I make sure that we get there. We don't see everything, I don't have time to go looking for it.
Exactly.
But if something's brought to our attention, we make sure. Sometimes compliance just takes a little bit of time, and we try to work with people. It's a letter, a follow-up letter, and then if it gets to a point, then we have to ticket, I'd rather have compliance. That's the whole goal of our office is compliance. Achieving that. So I think it just takes time, and some people don't see that we're working or in the process of it. It gets frustrating, they see something. I've been working on Highland Ave, actually. I was talking to one of the councilors, and when someone's working with me and they're doing something and I see progress, I'm going to work with them because there's a reason sometimes, unless it's a life safety thing, then we have to get something done. You try to work with people.
Is there a way to ever tell the complainant about that process?
Yep, we do.
So you would report back to the person who's brought the issue and say, hey, we're working on it, they know about it.
Yep.
And how does that work?
To inform the person that brought it to our attention. Yep, we'll let them know that this letter went out. We can even give them a copy of a letter, or it was an email, how we communicate. The biggest thing is communication. We try. Sometimes, it might be a day or two if you get back. We try not to, but we definitely want to communicate back to them, and we do as best as we can.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I haven't, you always answer my emails, but I
Try.
Thank you.
Sorry if I miss any.
No, thanks.
Okay.
Councilor King.
Thank you. Hi. I have a couple questions. First, I have maybe an easy one. I know I've been able to find information about building permits online. Is the OpenGov database available to the public? I'm not sure if that's how I found it before.
It is.
Okay, it is. So if someone, again, we're back to short-term rentals. Thank you again for doing inspections. If someone has a theory that their neighbor is running an illegal Airbnb and they want to know if that property has officially been inspected by the city, they can just find it in the public OpenGov.
They should be able to. I've not tried to look at that way, but you should be able to look up an address and see if this permit's there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is very helpful because I get questions like that a lot, and those turn into whole email chains when it could just be public information. So
Or they can reach out to Health and myself, and we can look it up quickly and send them an
you guys have been, and it's great, and
Yeah.
thank you. I just feel like I'd rather, it's great if it's self-service too.
And that's how it comes to our attention if something's been registered and run properly.
Okay. Yeah, on that note, do you have any way, because I know when you're inspecting, you're probably doing it more from a health and safety point of view, but I know in Salem we have the owner occupancy requirement for most Airbnbs that haven't been grandfathered in or gotten an appeal. Do you ever, when you're doing your inspection, look for the signs of whether or not it's actually honoring the owner occupancy requirement?
That would be difficult. I think Dave would be more right now we're just taking information they're submitting and we're hoping that it's honest, that they're living there. And then usually it's the neighbor who tells us they don't live there because we haven't seen them all year. And that's our best information, and then we can kind of keep an eye on it in that sense.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I definitely get those as well where people are yeah.
Yeah, this a bit,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And then just to go back to the snow ticket
Yes.
for a moment, do you happen to know, at a high level, what last year's snow ticket numbers were? If it was 115 this year, do you have a sense? It's okay.
So that would, I don't, for the December of 24 and then 25? Yeah. I don't think we had.
I know there was less snow. I'm aware of that. I was just curious.
Yeah.
My suggestion for next year when we're doing this budget book is in your performance measures, I would add stuff like that. Just
Yes, we were talking about, I just didn't get a chance, unfortunately, this year, but I do want to get a better breakdown of, because we do a lot, and it looks like we're just taking applications in, unfortunately. Yeah.
I want you guys to be able to put the things that you
Yeah.
so people see it. That's
I
great.
might need 3 pages, but yeah.
No, that's good. And then my next question is, I guess more so for the mayor, actually. So I'm looking at this budget, right? So if you're making, last year you made almost $2.7 million in this department. This year it looks like you're on track to make about $3 million in this department. And your actual overall costs for personnel and expenditures is just a hair over $1 million. It seems like you're one of the departments that is the most profitable, one of the only departments that is extremely profitable. And it sounds like you being able to fill inspector roles is directly related to your ability to get more revenue for the department. So why did we not give them the extra inspector?
for that question. So I think there's the part-time inspectors funded in the budget to start moving towards adding another personnel in that position. It is, I think, from a public management perspective, a slippery slope to say a department that brings in a certain amount of revenue should be generating or should have the personnel equivalent to that. The planning department sustainability department bring in millions of dollars in grants. They don't have millions of dollars in personnel. The golf course brings in hundreds of thousands of dollars in receipts. They don't have the personnel that reflect that as well. We're, I think, trying to add to this department. It has grown in the number of inspectors over the last 4 years. But we also had a very clear line that given our current budget situation and the uncertainty around particularly things like the ballot question related to the income tax, it was not a year that we wanted to create net new positions that didn't exist previously. So there was the 2 positions in the police department that had been part-time that were made full-time. There was 2 grant-funded positions that were added onto the budget that were existing roles that were just funded differently. And then there's the net new part-time personnel in the building department for inspections. We'll continue to grow as we can, but I think that we're trying to be really conservative in our approach to adding people.
Okay, that makes sense at a high level. I will say the cost of this person is only $69,000, and given the amount this money this department makes, I think they literally would have paid for themselves in addition to additional revenue. So hypothetically valid, but like operational cost-wise, it would have been a net positive, I think. But that's a thought for next year. Okay. All right, and then I just, just a quick question on the Clean It or Lean It. It looks like you have a relatively big increase
Yes.
year over year. Is that from applying it to snow? What does that increase mean?
It'll be from multi-things. We've seen more increases that we, like court-in situations, or I'm assisting also the health department if they don't have the funds, if we need to do something to assist to get things done.
Okay.
Yeah, like board ups or anything like that. So I have seen an increase, so I think having the funds helps us with the safety issue like that.
Okay, that makes sense. And then for the increase in mailing costs, I will just note for James, for some reason, this section is especially, I know that when you have to rename things in the accounting software, it makes it like 2 separate. This section, it was like every single line item was like that, so it's hard. So from what I can tell, it looks like the increase in mailing costs is almost $30,000. Is that just because of the items that you discussed earlier, things like you handling all of the mailing?
Yes.
You're essentially a mail house.
Yes, we are, yes.
Okay, all right, just checking. Okay, and then I just had one last question having to do with items that go in front of the zoning board. So it looks like between 2024 and 2025, you saw a roughly 37% increase in things going in front of the zoning board. So like special permits, variances, things like that. I know that we're building a lot, which is good. Are there any other reasons why this has gone up? That feels like a pretty significant increase. Is it just more building, or is it, I know sometimes your office, because you're the zoning officer as well, you might send like dormers through. Is like, what's causing that increase?
Yep, probably more construction, more additions. If something does not meet in our zone and codes, they have to go to the board.
Do you see any room for streamlining that process in the future? Because I just know that it's a volunteer board, right? And
Yeah.
I've been on zoning board meetings where there was like 6 items on the agenda and they only got to hear the first 3. The meetings go long. And that leads to, a lot of times these are like individual residents who are like paying a lot of money, $500 an hour for a lawyer to sit there on the call and all that. So I'm like thinking about how we can streamline what the stuff that goes in front of our zoning board is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So it's, the zoning is 40A, it's MGL law, so it has nothing to do with who I would send. It would be if they didn't meet our zoning requirements, they'd have to go to the board. And they would appeal, because I couldn't give them a building permit, because they wouldn't be allowed to build whether it was setbacks, dimensional requirements, so then they have to go to the board. A resident could represent themselves if it's something small. We don't tell them they have to have an attorney. That would be their choice. The biggest cost would be the advertisement, I think, if they go to the board. And unfortunately, I don't regulate. I mean, we enforce it, and I just can't give a building permit, so the appeal process would be going to the zoning board.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Flynn, and then Council Storiak.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Hello, thank you for
Hey.
coming tonight. I want to thank you and your staff for doing a great job. You've always got back to me, and I appreciate that. Couple questions. With your wish list for this year, was there something that you think you needed that you didn't get that would make your department prepared better for the public? And is there something holding you back in the budget for next year, fiscal year?
Definitely always more people, but I'm happy the mayor has worked with us. We did get a code enforcement officer last year, and then he's working, like you said, with me, gradually to fill my department. So definitely the more hands, the more people you have, the more you get done, right? So,
Understandable.
yeah.
But your department is very vital for a lot of people, businesses, homeowners, when they need
Yes.
a permit. Very, very important. Sometimes some of the councils might hear if it's backlogged, takes a while, a complaint. So that's why I was wondering, with this position, part-time, do you foresee things being a little smoother in fiscal year +27?
It would assist to make it a little bit smoother. I can't guarantee no bumps in the road, but definitely a little smoother.
Okay. And one last question. If people have a complaint or something to do with your department, do you see more people reach out to you through SeeClickFix or through email, or just trying to call your department, leaving a message?
I think a combination, directly a complaint about my department or something like
Something-
in the constituent, like,
Yeah, a complaint
okay.
of a neighbor or something like that.
A little of everything. We do see ClickFix, we get emails and direct calls also. So they communicate in many ways, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Story.
Thank you, Chair Davis, and thank you for the presentation. I want to go back to a point that the Ward 1 councilor made in regards to the revenues. I'm seeing that there's an estimated amount for total number of permits and whatnot issued to go with an estimated revenue. Now, the estimated amount of permits for fiscal year 2026, which we know is going to be the revenue over $3 million, apparently. But this estimation is above the actual of fiscal year 2025. And yet the estimated revenue is $1 million less. So what is the methodology going into our estimation? And how does that impact our sort of understanding of how to prepare our budget and plan for a future year?
With permits, we have the ones that are fixed, like your annuals, you have to do the 110s and 304s. Those get done no matter what. As far as projects, if we see projects that are going to the planning board or they've communicated with us, they're going to come to the city, we foresee that. That's a big project. So that kind of gives us an idea if we have 4 big projects coming in that we can estimate, like, those are going to be big permit fees coming into the city.
So it's essentially a very conservative estimate.
Yeah.
And that makes sense for
Yes.
budgeting. You talked a little bit about prioritization when it comes to tackling issues, especially with health and public safety. I just want to learn more about, especially with the snow removal and priority networks. And I'm thinking for like those networks that lead to the school. Like, are there different mechanisms besides just constantly engaging those properties along the way? Like, are we able to increase fines? Are we able to issue fines very quickly? Because it seems as if sometimes these properties they resist and they do not clean the way for kids to get to school.
Unfortunately, some will not comply. They'll get the ticket. I'm going to, and the mayor had suggested too that we can have somebody go clean it and then we just bill them and then lean it on their property. And if it gets to a dangerous situation, especially like schools, we definitely want to do that.
Okay, great, thank you. And then for the short-term rentals, which I think is great, I assume this is going to be a huge task for you all now that it's mandated going into 2020 fiscal year 2027. What are the proactive attempts at this? I know we can all go on Airbnb, but is the city cross-referencing what is being posted on these websites and then what is actually permitted? Or do we have to wait for a neighbor to say, hey, there's like 3 cars outside to this place and I haven't seen the owner in a while?
So the health department monitors a lot of it, along with James Wellick, for the short-term rentals, but we do unfortunately have to wait for someone to tell us if something illegal is going on. We don't know if someone's renting their apartment for a short-term rental until either they register or someone gives us the information.
This might be a huge administrative burden, but if you were to go on Airbnb and you see this spot at this address set up, and then you looked online or through your system, there is no address with that permit, is that not just a violation regardless?
Yes, yep, and then we can get them on for not registering, there's a fine for that.
But the policy is to wait for someone to complain?
No, if we came across it, if either the health department, somebody, we would definitely address it, we wouldn't wait for
So
somebody
this
to
is more a
complain.
question for health department.
Yeah, but I mean, even if it came to my department, because I enforce also the ordinance, we would enforce it like, but I'm not the one who looks up, the ones that are online, Airbnb, but I'm not sure if Dave does from health.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was wondering. Maybe this is a question for the health department. Is there a proactive standard process for the city to seek out this noncompliance by cross-referencing?
Respond to that. So when the short-term rental ordinance was originally passed, we had worked with a company that had a service that basically scanned the short-term rental websites and then tried to use Google Street View and other applications to identify an address and determine whether or not it was registered. It was extremely expensive and did not work well. And I think the ability to have somebody just proactively sitting there scrolling through the sites and trying to figure out where something is also a bit of a challenge. Where we have had some luck in the past, and I think is a practice we want to start doing more regularly, is that the short-term rental platforms are required to provide data to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue for the collection of the excise tax. And if we're able to get those lists from DOR, we can cross-check it with our existing registry and identify on a periodic basis whether or not an address that is paying the excise tax to DOR is not properly registered with the city or has a certificate of fitness. I think one of the challenges when the DOR does not update that list regularly is my understanding.
Right, and I think, this is all a little bit of a drop in the bucket. It's more those that are just not on anyone's list, right? And I know the city may have a policy or may have a reluctance towards using AI instead of having someone sit there. I think this could be an opportunity for AI to be cross-referencing, and not necessarily to just strictly put someone non-compliant, but then to put it on someone's radar to be like, oh, we should probably look into that.
Yeah, so my understanding is if you are on any of the standard short-term rental platforms with your property, that platform is reporting is collecting the excise tax, and so you are on a list.
Right.
So that is at least the default catch-all list that should reflect everything. That doesn't mean they're registered with the city, but if we have access to that data, then we have
that's
the ability to say like, oh, the property at such and such Main Street is paying DOR excise tax, but they don't have a certificate of fitness, they don't have the local registration. We can send them an informational letter, follow up with a violation if they don't.
Okay, right. So the disconnect is it being properly recorded by the state, and then it comes back to us, and then we sort
Yeah,
of
I think that's a place where we can get better about getting that data in and cross-referencing it with our existing registry.
Okay, that's very good to know. In regards to like inspections and ensuring that properties are meeting the letter of the law, whether that's the city or the state, what is the standards and expectations of some of our inspectors, knowing that there is some latitude? Some of these laws are vague enough that it allows us some flexibility, but that can also cause some friction with the community. What are the processes to ensure that we're all in the same, that your expectations are met for your inspectors and following the letter of the law?
So for building inspectors, we enforce 780 CMR, which is the building code, the energy codes, any type of code that is through the state. So it's black and white. So that's what we do. There's no flexibility in the sense that you can't do it. there is a process that if we come across a violation, that they're informed of it. It could be through letter, which is our normal way, an email, and then we work with them with a timeline. They are given an appeal, and it's usually through the state board, whether it's plumbing, building, any of the boards that put out these regulations, or if it's zoning, there's an appeal process. They're welcome to do that process, and if they are granted that appeal, then that's what it is, because that's what we enforce. If not, then another letter would go out that they're not complying with that. They would receive municipal tickets and fines. And it's not what we want to do. Unfortunately, we just want to reach, like I said, compliance. But if that's a route we have to do, then we just continue with that, and then it was at a ticketing process. I had a situation, and then if it keeps continuing, it's a dangerous situation especially, I would get our city solicitor involved, and then sometimes we end up in court, and then we could get compliance that way. We are all on the same page as far as the inspectors, because we follow the same codes and the same everything. City ordinances, same thing. And we try to give people a way to work with us, and we work with them. But it's communication, and we do that across the board, no matter who it is in the city.
Right, and so,
And the inspectors are the same way, no matter which inspector it is, and we all communicate, we talk together if a situation comes up, and we work great together, actually, with fire, health, electrical, and a lot of these, we do require inspections, we do problem properties every month, so we try to keep up with properties that have issues, so we don't have a situation that goes bad. As much as we can. But we definitely communicate and we enforce together all the departments in the city. And we have a great team, actually.
yeah, so the gold standard compliance.
Yes.
And my final question is, and maybe this isn't something you can address, perhaps it's IT or communications, but I've had a few individuals trying to follow what law is actually the one that people need to follow. And so I'm thinking to ADUs and the sort of difference between what the state, which is the one that we should be following, and then what is on the website, which is still the old city code. And it's just not harmonized or matched up. It's not harmonized mostly because we haven't changed what we have going on. But so what is the process, not necessarily just for ADUs, but in general, to make sure the website is saying exactly what people need to follow?
So the state came out with guidance, so ADUs are by right, and then the town did their own ordinance, so we had our outside counsel look at it. So our ordinance is correct, but you have by right, because it's a Dover, actually, the accessory dwelling units, they're allowed, and there's certain things they might not meet some criteria with zoning, and then they just go to the board, and it's for a finding. So we do stay across in that sense, and hopefully we're communicating it with, if they have questions, I have people to call them, because the ADUs is a whole new game right now on, because they're not owner occupied anymore. There's different regulations, so the state has their rules and regulations that we have to follow, and then we have our own ordinance, how we did it in conjunction with the state.
Right. And just putting the ADU stuff aside, how quickly are we updating the website to ensure that what maybe is passed here, or if there's a difference between the state, is updated on the website?
Hopefully each department's doing their own updating, with the IT department, like our building code changed to the 10th edition, we've updated that.
Okay.
So that people will know which regulations to follow.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor King.
Hi, thank you. I just have one quick follow-up question for the mayor. The data that you get from the state based on the, I think it was the taxes for like Airbnb and VRBO and stuff, do you happen to know, like you said it's not updated very often, do you have a rough sense of how often it's updated? Is it like annually or?
I don't know that, but we can find out.
Okay. Do you know the idea of cross-referencing it with our existing list? Do you know which department would be in charge of that if we were to do that?
That had been the health department. It was
Okay.
one of the reasons for, I think, the additional staff that was hired there in the last couple of years.
Okay. Do we know when the last time that actually happened was?
I don't offhand, but we can find out for you.
Okay, and I would just ask that maybe the next time we do it, we let the council know, because I know a lot of us ward councilors, like that is one of the top questions I get from random people is like, I think there's an illegal Airbnb on my street, so just let us know whenever you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would again emphasize that if somebody thinks that they can look up the property address to find a permit, they can call, and if we don't identify it and there's evidence that it's listed, or it's being used that way, they can still take action.
Absolutely. I just think it's helpful for the city to understand that we're being proactive about it and them, instead of them just having to report it all the time. But valid.
Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I did have another question, but it seems like that a lot of this stuff actually should go to the health department, so that'll go in an email because that was already happened, which makes sense. It's sort of a combination effort. I don't know on OpenGov that there is a listing of Airbnbs. Do you know if I don't think that's
I don't think we have a listing. No, I don't think we have a listing, but if you went on to a certain address on OpenGov, I'm not sure what it would show exactly because I've never been on that side of the permanent part of it, but
doesn't
yeah.
for us. I mean, in the past, I've had to go to past zoning board of appeals, let's say, if they were trying to get something or try to find, or just go to Airbnb and see. But that's the only way I can see if it's illegal or legal. It just exists, because I do know that if we had that, it feels like it would make your compliance job a lot easier in that I could probably, I could tell you a lot of sleuths in my neighborhood that would love to take this on at no cost to the city, to just go through and look through addresses and match them up to Airbnb and say, I know that house and I know this. They would love it. And because people don't, as Councilor King says, people are calling this stuff in and they're really concerned because of the housing prices and because of tourism concerns, which are not, I don't have them, but some folks do. And so that would be something that would be great if we could put this together somehow, or just a list that listed them out. I don't know if there's privacy issues around that, but
I'm not sure.
if they're a public business, if they're operating as a business, can't imagine there would be a privacy issue, just like I can look up where, Dire Wolf is or whatever. And then a lot of times I hear from business owners, it comes back that they've been required to hire an architect, or they've been required to hire. While I understand that may be great to protect the city's interests in terms of making sure that these things are safe and that they're compliant, are you often having people hire architects, or are you having them just present engineered drawings?
Depends on the situation. So in our code, anything 3 units and above, we can request an engineer or an architect.
Can request.
Yes.
Not must.
We should, well, it depends.
Yeah.
So if someone's just putting a door in, and it's in a restaurant, I'm not going to have them get me an engineer. But if they're doing an addition or they're changing their floor plan, I need to know the egress path. How are you going to get people out of the building? You're changing everything. Are you putting furniture in there? Is it changing the capacity? So that's up to the professional, the licensed professional. It says it right in our building code that they could do. We do ask that. It depends on the situation.
But you typically would ask that. Mm-hmm. Does that take a lot of extra time from the building department's end to then go back, revisit the place, check the plans, meet with the architect or engineer, or any of that? Is it?
It does.
Okay, so it's a lot of extra.
Not extra work, but it's a good way to make sure that our compliance and the codes are being met by doing that. And it's on the owner and the professional who's certified also to stamp the drawings if they get an architect or an engineer, that it's done properly. And especially if it's a public assembly place, you want to make sure that it's okay and then no one gets hurt.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council on the budget summary? And just a general reminder, just to try to keep our questions as germane to the budget as possible. It's been fascinating to hear about procedures and practices, but just want to not veer too far away from the agenda. Councilor King.
Point of order. If the items are talked about as performance measures, I think we should be allowed to ask about them.
Sure. I think some questions were iffy, some were pretty far away from budget. But yeah, point taken.
I motion to recommend approval of the building, plumbing, gas inspectors personnel budget in the amount of $940,089.
Councilor King moves to approve the building personnel budget in the amount of $940,889, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? The record show I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. Councilor King.
I motion to recommend approval of the plumbing, building, gas inspectors expenditures budget in the amount of $75,642.
Counselor King moves to approve the building, plumbing, gas inspectors expenditures budget line item in the amount of $75,642, seconded by Counselor Flynn. All those in favor? The record show I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. And for the public's knowledge, that brings us to a department total of $1,015,731. We'll now move on to the fixed costs budget. Vula, you already spoke a little bit to this. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we tackle that?
Nope, those just minor increases with the fixed costs, like the utilities and things like that.
Great. Any questions from the council? All right, Councilor King.
I motion to recommend approval of the public property fixed costs expenditures budget in the amount of $787,571.
Councilor King moves to approve the public property fixed cost expenditures budget in the amount of $787,571, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Tarowski. All those in favor? Let the record show I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. Right, and then we have Zoning Board of Appeals, and that'll be on page 457. You spoke to this as well. Anything you'd like to add, Vula?
Nope, the changes, we don't have any changes on that.
All right. Questions from the council? All right, Councilor King.
Thank you. I motion to recommend approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals expenditures budget in the amount of $1,200. In the amount of $1,200.
Councilor King moves to approve the Zoning Board of Appeals expenditures budget in the amount of $1,200, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries.
The only question I had, too, about the capital, if you have any questions also. Okay.
Yeah, so that is, if people go to the big red tab, tab 7, we're going to turn to page 243. And Vula, if there's anything you wanted to walk us through here, go ahead.
Mike, do you have any questions? Mike's working on my capital. We're good? Yeah, everything. If you have any questions, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory, I think, on that one.
Sure. Councilor King.
Could you walk us through the Pioneer Village $300,000 expense?
Mike, would you like to do that? You go ahead.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Mike Crowns, the facility director, and I also manage special projects, which from my last role, which was the Signature Parks project manager, and Pioneer Village is one of those projects. So the $300,000 that encapsulates the $100,000, which was asked from the Community Preservation Fund, the CPA, and they had their meeting, and the project was awarded, I believe, $81,000 from that meeting, which I think will come in front of the council for approval when all CPA funds come before the council. And the additional $200,000 was an additional amount for the to cover additional construction costs. Right now, we have our estimated construction budget was $4.2 million. Back in 2025, and that was without the final relocation costs, which we are currently going to to be going in front of the Conservation Commission for soon. And the increase, so the 300,000 for the CPA and additional from the CIP was to cover the increased design costs and potential increase in construction costs related to the move of Pioneer Village.
Great. Do you have a rough timeline for the move?
So we are going to be opening Pioneer Village for this season. The anticipation is that after the season, as long as the approvals are in place, they will begin to get the village buildings ready for relocation, and at the same time, with an approved contractor, be getting the new site ready for accepting those buildings, and then hopefully be able to move the buildings after the winter in the spring of 2027. But the relocation will happen after the 2026 season.
Do you have a rough sense of when, if the buildings move, when it would be reopened for use? Would it be the following year?
Yeah, 2027 so not fiscal year 2027, but actual in 2027. So.
Okay.
We would have liked to have that happened in 2026, but just the timeline for the permitting process has taken longer than anticipated, and just we want to make sure that we get it right. So everything's taking a little bit longer.
Okay. I have questions about operations, but I'll save that for parks when they come in next week.
Okay, I will probably be here for that too.
Great.
Council Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Mike, how are you? Good. I have a question about the Salem Common Bandstand under the same section. I see $300,000 here. Is that?
Yes. So it was the same kind of anticipated number. We requested $100,000 for CPA. We had received, I believe. Sorry, I do know 81,000 from CPA, and the estimated construction cost right now for the bandstand with the ramp is about just over $1 million. We have, since I put this request in, we have changed the design slightly to decrease the lighting costs. So the lighting costs are going to be less than what was originally anticipated. So if I were to anticipate any savings, I would anticipate the bandstand will be having and would have a little bit of savings in this regard.
So if it's $700,000 more, even let's just say if it's $1 million, where was the rest of that coming from? I'm sorry, because the 81 from CP.
So we had
here from Fund 2000.
So we had I was anticipating that we would need between $200,000 and $300,000 total more to do the bandstand based on the design and with the initial lighting. Now with the additional lighting that we anticipate not happening, we are looking at, I don't have the final construction number because we don't have the final, we don't have bids in from the contractors yet, but we are looking at, now maybe we're, the need right now is only just about 100,000.
Okay, and so this
total 100
in addition.
In addition to the 81 that I already have, so I don't need the full 200 from the CIP. Yeah, that's what I'm anticipating.
Probably going to be more like another 100 plus the 81.
Right. That's what I'm hoping. That I don't like to come back to the council during the year to ask for additional money if I don't need to. but I would rather not ask for more than I need, and then if there was a little bit of a, if there was a need, hopefully we can find it through some, grants during construction. But yeah, that's why I was anticipating needing the full 200 because of the additional costs and the permitting costs. So.
This is additional, and that's my mistake.
Yeah.
You're
No, go ahead. No.
talking like you know what you're doing. I'm just talking. I realize that the rest of it is already allocated. So
Oh, yeah.
either in the signature parks or it was done.
Yeah, we have, right now, we have over $1 million that's already available to us. We have just over $1 million that's available to us for construction through Signature Parks. So that's already there and already available. And the estimated construction costs right now is 1.1 million estimated. So
Okay, and so
But
if we
yeah.
approved this higher number,
right.
you could do more like things like a wraparound ramp, which I keep pushing, but there would be extra money.
Additional landscaping, maybe, additional things.
There's other ways that, yeah.
If there's change orders or things that,
That should stay here so you don't have to come back.
that's the hope, yes.
Thank you.
But
Councilor Sidoriak.
I have a quick question, and let me know if this isn't, thank you, Chair Davis, if this isn't germane, because it is about fiscal year 2028, but being that is the capital funds, could still be germane. Is in regard to the replacement vehicle for the building commissioner, my one question is, how many vehicles, well, I have several questions, how many vehicles does the department have? And then, I assume we do it, but is there math done on whether or not we should own and lease? And also, we spoke with the police department on their sort of need for vehicles, but having some be electric or hybrid, and it's really important that not all are electric because of a crisis. What is the type of vehicle that we're looking at? I assume we don't need the building inspector vehicle to be, it could be electric, right?
So right now, my department, I'm the one who has the one vehicle. My other inspectors use their vehicles, and they do mileage reimbursement for that. We would probably look at something hybrid or electric if we went down to future. The car's getting older, so we just put it in the budget just in case. I don't need it right now. It's working fine, and believe me, if it runs, we can use it. We're good to go. But we have it in the budget just as a preparation. It's a 2013, the vehicle that I'm driving.
Just from a larger perspective, I can respond that, we do have a vehicle replacement policy related to electric and hybrid vehicles. I think a copy may have been sent, it actually might not have been sent out to councilors after the new council came in, but we can make sure you have a copy of that. And if you have questions about it, Neil Duffy, when he comes in about sustainability, has been our point person on it.
Any other questions on the President Merkel?
Thank you, Chair Davis. Just super quick on the common bandstand. Is there any kind of overhang for, the musicians and the bands, the performers? I just didn't know, because right now it's so open on the stage. Just curious.
there is no new overhang. It is just whatever the current bandstand is. That's going to be they're going to make improvements to that current structure, and that's what was approved by the Historic Commission.
Okay, thanks. Just curious.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Bula. We will go to the electrical department now, which is on in tab 17 with a budget summary on page 473. And we'll welcome John Giardi.
Good evening, Chair Davis, and good evening, councilors, and welcome to the new councilors. Nice to meet you people. I'm the city electrician for Salem, and my job is I'm in charge of all the electrical inspections for the city. We also maintain the street lighting, we do traffic, and we do fire alarm. While the chief is here, I want to bring up the fire alarm system. We are in the process of decommissioning our fire alarm system only because we're going to make it better. And what's going to happen is we have two types of system. We have like a mesh system, which takes fire alarm systems from different areas and meshes them together so that the signal strength is better for everybody. And the more of those radios that you have out in the field, the better the signals are for everybody. And what we've done with the city buildings is that we've gone one step further. In the mesh systems, we have an AES radio, which you buy the radio one-time deal, it's $746, and then you pay a monitoring fee monthly. But there's never any new radios to be thinking about in the future. It's one and done. The other systems that people use, like central monitoring stations, that like they use Starlink radios and other type radios that are cellular communicators. And what happens with that, if we go to a 7G system, right now we're working on a 5G system, all the radios become junk, and everybody has to purchase new radios. So that's the reason why we opted to go with the AES radios for the city of Salem. And we've done it in all our city buildings. All the schools have them, all our municipal buildings have them. And we're in the process of taking down all the master boxes out in the street, and as soon as we can, they'll all be removed. But what we can't do right away, we're going to tag and bag them, like with the brown trash bags. The chief has bought stickers to put on all the labels on the boxes, that boxes out of commission, until we can get to them and remove them. So far, all the merchants have been compliant. They're removing all their boxes that they've had and gone to a central station. And what that does is that, Tim can tell you, he's a firefighter, that it gives you contact ID. And what I mean by contact ID is that when a zone comes in, it tells you exactly what smoke detector it is, or what other problems that we've had, like a heat detector or a sprinkler alarm, and it gives you the location. So when the firefighters are on their way to a fire, it may be carbon monoxide, it could be an explosion. So they know exactly what they're going to get into before they arrive on the scene and be prepared. And that's the reason why we're updating it. And it's a lot safer, for everybody. And as far as traffic, we've done a substantial amount of traffic improvements over the last year. Like, you look at Jackson and Highland Avenue, that was a problem spot for years. We've solved that, and that intersection, to me, works beautiful. And the next one we did was, which was long awaited, was Wilson and Jefferson. And that seems to be working very well. It seems to be safe for everybody. And the third one, David Kuchowski and myself are working on this one, is Finnan Street and Salem Street, in conjunction with Mass Highway. So it's like going to be a benefit to Mass Highway and us, because it'll coordinate the traffic in that area. So Mass Highway has been excellent to work with, and they appreciate. We've donated some money to the situation as well, so it was a good joint venture. Street lighting, we've upgraded Jefferson Avenue, the whole street. We've upgraded Highland Avenue, the whole street. And we've upgraded Lafayette Street. Our goal is right now to finish all the main arteries with new street lighting, LED, and branch out into the side streets. So that's where we are with that. And if you guys have any questions, well, electrical inspections, we go in the same buildings that Vula goes in the building department. Okay, and we've got another electrical inspector We haven't had a full staff for a long time, but now we're up to full staff, and we're able to do a lot more. We've maintained city buildings. We're working with the police department all the time, installing cameras. We're working with the fire department as well, doing the same thing. And so far, so good.
Great, thank you, John. Questions from the council? Councilor Sidoriak.
Thank you, Chair Davis. And not only thank you for the presentation, but I just want to thank you personally. You helped to get a new street light in on Swampscott Road and above a crosswalk, so I really appreciate that, and the constituent that called that in also
You're welcome.
appreciates it. Thank you. My first question is in regards to the resiliency of some of this technology, especially in regards to, one, software, and two, the weather. I remember coming up to Raleigh Plaza for a few months, and there was a pedestrian light constantly asking me to put in the password, and I assume that was a software glitch.
Yeah, right.
But
Gotta be.
if you could speak to, I didn't have the password. I said 1, 2, 3, 4, and it didn't work. So I just wonder if you could speak to some of the resiliency or the standards that we have for this technology.
Okay. Yeah, it's supposed to be a simple code, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've changed it to, just so you guys know, Salem. Okay? So hopefully that'll help you.
Offset right there. And then finally, in regards to decommissioning the fire alarm hardware, once that's done, especially having some efficiencies with the radios, can you speak to how we can pivot some of the man hours that we have that would have been to upkeeping this hardware to now maybe towards deferred maintenance? What are the cost savings we can get from this?
Oh, cost savings. Normally we spend $40,000, like with overtime and other costs that go with it, cable wires and everything else. We won't be incurring those costs at this point.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Flynn and then Councilor King.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Hello, how you doing? Thanks for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of people concerned with the street lights citywide, especially on main streets, for Ward 4 Boston Street. It seems pretty consistent that the lights now, they're definitely not as bright as they were. Is there something in your budget that you're looking forward to upgrading some of these lights to make them a little more brighter, especially the main arteries?
Right.
You know what I mean? Thank you.
We're going to upgrade the whole city. We're in the process of doing that, Councilor.
So something through grants or?
No, that's something we budgeted for. Okay? We're going to be installing, once we get done with the fire alarm project, we're going to be going back to the streetlights, and you'll see a big difference in all the side streets and the main arteries.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor King.
Hi, thank you. I just have one quick question regarding as you're upgrading doing the fire system. As we take down any old lines that were on electrical poles for that system, are we retaining that space for municipal use, or are we releasing that space back?
No, we're gonna maintain that because we might run fiber optic someday.
That's the thought. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Good. We're on the same page. Awesome. Okay.
The Chief Dion and I talked about that.
Oh, great. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
Councilor Tarowski.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Mr. Giardi, I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the Safe Signal project that's taking place along Hawthorne Boulevard between Derby and Essex Street, and just what kind of changes we can expect to see during phase 3 of that project.
Derby and Essex Street, okay. Well, we're working on phase 3 of the Smart Signal program, okay, and that includes Derby and Congress Street. It also includes Essex Street and Hawthorne Boulevard, okay. So it's been tough trying to get the contractors together. Like some contractors are busy this time, and the weather has been really obstinate this year, so I expect a lot of progress this coming year. So you should see the results by late summer, mid-fall.
is that like tripwires in the pavement, or is that signal operations for pedestrians, or what exactly kind of changes are?
Well, that does the whole intersection. It'll be like a new controller, new traffic signals, and ADA compliant push buttons, and everything that goes with it.
That's exciting. Thank you.
Councilor Smith and then Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Chair. How are you?
Good.
This is, I have to say, you break everything down so nicely when you're speaking to us who maybe don't know a lot about electrical, and then the budget is incredibly well broken down, and it tells you every single thing. So I have very few questions. Actually, I have one thing. I was wondering about, this came up last year in regards to red light, changes from right on reds. And have you looked into, is it something that we're going to be doing at all, the signals that would adjust and shift with when a pedestrian calls it? So it would be like an immediate yellow. Do you know what I'm talking? I think they have them in Beverly.
Okay.
I don't know the name for it. I wish I knew the name for it. You probably know what I'm talking about.
You talking concurrent signals, or?
It might be. I don't know. What I'm talking about is if you can make a right on red, but then when or while the light's green, if a pedestrian wants to go in the same direction.
Yeah, that's concurrent.
Concurrent. They want to go. Yeah, I guess that's.
I want to do that.
Okay. All right.
But sometimes I had opposition from a councilor or two, at one point, because they didn't feel it was safe. But if you look at the history of concurrent signals, you go to the city of Cambridge, you go to the city of Newton, and other outlying communities, it's been proven that there's no more danger to concurrent signals than for regular pedestrian call signals. And it helps move traffic a lot better. And if the intersection's posted with signs and all the 80 buttons are working, traffic will move a lot better.
And so there's no plan to put something like that in.
I want to do it, and it's within our reach to do it, but I just need council approval.
Noted. All right. Thank you.
Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Chair. One last remark. You're talking about removing the master boxes citywide. I've had people reach out to me about that, about the availability of them after. It could be pretty financial for the city. I mean, obviously, some of these boxes have a lot of historical value that I'm sure we'd like to keep, but many of the other boxes, is there a plan to sell those to the public, to have an auction, or so people could have an opportunity to buy them and bring some money into the general fund for the city?
Good question. We've talked about it. We haven't come up with a plan yet. I have to discuss that with the mayor and the chief, and we'll do what's right for the community. It's community property, so we need to keep everybody involved.
There is a lot of interest, obviously. I'm sure
Yes,
people have
there
been
is.
to you as well, that
We've
people
turned
fix
them
up,
down.
They use them at the houses for,
Yeah.
ornamental and...
Yeah, we've turned them down, but the city might come up with a plan, like you said, we want to sell them or whatever we want to do with them. You guys have to say over that, so we'll do whatever your wish is. Oh.
President Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Davis. And just very quickly, really a comment. It was a tough winter, and I appreciate with such extreme colds. And being where I live, I see you and the crews and the work. So I just want to comment on that. I mean, for all the departments, it was a very,
It was tough.
it was a tough winter. So appreciate that. And also a lot of the work you went over. You mentioned the Wilson and Jefferson intersection. Yeah, really important, and appreciate that. And also how very quickly you respond to emails and outreach. So I just want to
Thank you,
mention
Councilor.
that. Thank you.
Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just to correct before, I did not mean concurrent signals. I'm sorry. I meant the hybrid beacons.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Is that something that
I haven't really been involved with that, but I'd like to see it. Yeah.
they're a little confusing, I think, for some people sometimes, but they're the ones that basically will have two different reds going, and one is for the turn.
I think I did see it one time.
And if a pedestrian ever calls it, it immediately goes to red. But that's something you've not looked into. That.
Okay, so it's a hybrid, okay. All right.
Something like that. I'll have
Look into
to.
that.
We'll talk. I'll get
Can you
information.
send me some of that?
Of course I will. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'm all for doing something better.
Any other questions from the council? All right, Councilor King.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I move to recommend approval of the electrical department personnel budget in the amount of $535,824.
Councilor King moves to approve the electrical personnel budget in the amount of $535,824, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. Councilor King.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I move to recommend approval of the electrical department expenditures budget in the amount of $514,996.
Councilor King moves to recommend approval of the electrical expenditures budget in the amount of $514,996, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. For the public's knowledge, that brings us to a departmental total of $1,050,820. And then we do have back in the red tab, capital improvement programs, tab 7 on page 243.
You got that one?
Yep, we got electrical there. John, anything that you wanted to speak to there? It looks like a small one.
Yeah, we're currently going to get a F-250 truck for one of the replacements that we've had. And when it comes to capital in regards to Phase 3, the Smart Signal Program, which involves Congress Street and New Derby Street and Hawthorne Boulevard and Essex Street. So everything's good. So far, so good.
Any questions from the council on that? All right, great. Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we will now go to the fire department. This will be in tab 12 with a budget summary on page 407, and we will welcome Chief Dion.
Good evening, councilors. I'm just going to start with a little history of the department for the past 12 months, some of the successes we've had with our capital projects and with some of our initiatives, and then I'll get into some of the budget issues and questions. Always the main issue that faces the department is manning, and we've been very fortunate that the manning has not been critical since almost 2021. We're just about fully staffed. We have 4 at the academy. You all met them the other night. And once they come out, we'll be fully staffed up until next January. So with the manning, we also have to anticipate vacancies that will be coming next year. Fortunately, the people that are intending to retire are pretty good and let us know in advance. And therefore, we can anticipate some of those costs, how they might impact our budgets, our budget lines, and so forth. So the manning is I report, is going well. Fingers crossed. We still are dealing with the usual issues. We have 3 currently that are deployed. And possibly 1 more going to be deployed. So that's a pretty big hit for individuals. One of them's an officer. Again, those positions, we don't fill those. When those can't be filled, they're going to come back. So we run 4 short. And then the usual people that have, injuries or sick leave or surgeries and so forth. So to be down those 4 for the military, it's a noble effort that they're serving, but it also comes with challenges and expenses because we use overtime to backfill those. I'd like to speak about some of the capital projects we've been doing since taking the job as chief in 2021. along with the firefighters, we've done a lot of hard work to improve the stations, and I think you've seen it if you look at any one of our stations. They're absolutely beautiful. Currently, the largest capital project we're managing is the Station 2 facade and overhead door. As you'll see when you drive by, it is progressing. We have a fantastic vendor so far. They're doing super work. We have a great clerk of the works and our architect, Ray Gerton, is just amazing. So the project is progressing. If all goes as planned, they have a completion date by the end of the month. It's one that we're willing to wiggle on if as long as they're there every day working. We're okay if they run a little over. We just want it done right. They are making progress, and I'm hoping to put this behind us sometime in early July. We'll have a brand-new overhead door, a wider doorway. The whole front of the building will be absolutely beautiful, along with the renovation of the apparatus floor, and the firefighters have been diligently working, making other improvements in the stations. So, as I mentioned, capital's been important to me. We initiated so many projects, I don't want to begin to list them here, but some others that we are working to finalize is our sustainability effort. The steam systems in 2 of the stations have been replaced. We now have very efficient heat pump systems that'll save, hopefully, some cost in the future for heating, but also we're not dumping all that carbon into the atmosphere as you would imagine from some of these old boilers. The electric cost is going to increase. We're having trouble projecting what that cost will be, but we'll know after, I'm sure, after this first year in the kilowatt usage. The advantage would be we're getting rid of 17 window air conditioners, so that'll save some electricity and also be less unsightly to the neighborhoods where these stations are located. The buildings will look better without all these things hanging out of them. The largest project we finished, I took on, before I was chief, I was assigned the project to work in conjunction with Captain Ryan over at the police, our radio project, and I'm happy to sit before you and report that the project is done. We did the final acceptance last week, $4.5 million worth of renovations to our radio systems. Actually, there's no renovations, complete replacement. All new microwave antennas throughout the city, radio rooms, equipment, everything will take us now through the indefinite future with some really reliable equipment. We had some of the oldest radios that we never should have used as long as we did, and we're fortunate that we got that done. Some of the expected savings or even unexpected. We did a little survey of the phone lines we no longer need. Every repeater site was using copper Verizon lines, in some locations 3 lines. I believe we're getting rid of 21 Verizon copper lines to the repeater sites. In the fire station, we're getting rid of another 5 or 6. We're still identifying lines that aren't being used, and that's harder than you imagine. Essentially, we're telling the phone company, if we don't recognize the number, go ahead and shut it off, and we'll see if something stops working. So far that method has been successful, but we're still identifying additional lines. I know that that's common throughout the city, and so many of these old buildings in the Verizon lines are still being charged. So that's something that we're going to save out some money. We've done some sustainability at all the buildings. Everything's been converted to LED. All the switches, and whenever we can, they're automated, so when you move into the room, the lights come on, and if there's nobody in the room, the lights will go off. We're still putting those in. Weather stripping on the buildings, stuff like that. Station 2 is our last station to be finalized in the sustainability effort. The heat pumps will be going in this summer if the capital budget is approved, and that will be our last horrible boiler that we can get rid of. No more steam radiators. If anybody wants an old radiator, stop by. We have a lot of them. They've gotten rid of many of them, but there's just going to be some really good benefit to finalizing those projects. We took delivery 3 weeks ago on our new Engine 4. We had been waiting. It was delivered almost 6 months late. The manufacturers don't seem to have any qualms about overcharging us, fixing pricing, and delivering very late. We are involved with researching a class action lawsuit against the manufacturers that's happening statewide and nationwide to try to get some more accountability and recoup some of the costs from these long delivery overrides and so forth. And they're gouging us. They're fixing prices, and it's not acceptable. We're in the process of designing a new ladder truck, which is in the 2028 FY capital budget, and it's important that we get ourselves into the queue for that project because they're taking, on the average, 3 to 3.5 years to manufacture a ladder truck. That'll put us past the lifespan of our Tower 2. So it's important that we're diligent and get that done in time. We took delivery on our new forestry vehicle. We call it Squad 1 because it's a multi-purpose vehicle. Half the vehicle is set up for our technical rescue gear, which we were able to get off the ladder truck and free up some space. And then the other half of the vehicle and the exactly vehicle itself is set up for forestry fire service work. Salem is one of the few communities that never had one of those vehicles, and when it happened several years ago where we had some of the worst fires we've had in 15 years, we relied on the communities surrounding us, some communities as far away as Lexington and others that just came to our rescue. And if we were going to be part of this mutual aid co-op and this mutual aid system, then we need to have the truck. And then we need to go when they need us. And we now can do that. So we finished the training with that vehicle. We're finalizing the equipment on it, and we'll be joining the Metro Fire Task Force teams for our region. And we will be responding to other communities with a 3-man crew or 4-man crew as needed, and do it our share on part of the mutual aid co-op. I mean, if we don't give, we shouldn't get. And so therefore, thanks to the council and the money that we were able to secure, we got a great vehicle, and that's going to benefit the community and the region. Another issue that we had was compliance. You've heard of the PFAS issues that face fire service and many of us in everything we touch, eat, sleep, and drink. But in the case of firefighters, it's been extreme, and we identified a shortcoming with our lockers. And so we were able to rip out every old locker in the whole city and put in all brand new ventilated lockers that are open on the front in the 3 outside stations. And then at headquarters, we put lockers, if you happen to stop by, they're quite good looking if you ask me, but they're all ventilated. So the gear can off-gas, and it needs to off-gas chemicals from exposures and fires, and it actually just needs to off-gas the manufacturing chemicals, which is just the PFAS. So now we have achieved that goal, and it was a really good project to finalize. I'm happy to say that that a lot of that work, we purchased the equipment. The vendor wanted $36,000 to install the lockers at fire headquarters. The firefighters took out the lockers. The firefighters put plywood up on the walls and painted it, and the firefighters assembled and installed the lockers. Saved us that money. That's just one station. At station 2, 4, and 5, they all did the same. They ripped out the old lockers and they installed the new ones. And I can't run this department and achieve the amount of capital improvements that we have without the sweat equity of the firefighters. And I can't overstate that they're just amazing, the work they do for us. They're constantly painting and not only cleaning and all that stuff, but they're constantly painting and remodeling and doing projects. And all I have to do is come up with the money, and I'm happy to buy what they need to continue the project. So I will give all credit to the firefighters and the council and the mayor for the locker project. They made it happen. I couldn't have done it. So that's pretty much where we're at when it comes to what's been going on. Some future plans, we'll touch on them in the capital budget, but the second phase of the radio system is some more notification systems throughout the stations. We call it the Zetron system. That'll be in need of an upgrade, and it'll be automated. So therefore, the call takers in dispatch, where often just one person is working, they can take a call and they can type in the call and tell the computer, and the computer will do all the dispatching. It'll determine what trucks are available. It'll announce the run. It'll send everything out, and they can continue to take calls. That's modern technology, expediting delivery of service, and that's one of the things we're worked into our capital budget. The overhead doors at headquarters, They're in the budget, they're falling down, they're over 35 years old, and they're actually disgusting and a disgrace, and no disrespect to anybody in the room when I say that, but they absolutely have to be addressed. And so we're going to go for the high-end doors. They're going to actually match what's going in over at Station 2. Station 2's door will be red. Headquarters would be all aluminum, very lightweight, and extremely efficient with thermal pane glass, and but they'll be white and they'll look fantastic. And that was what was originally on that building when it was built in 1972. Full paneled glass doors with panels on the bottom that were wood, otherwise it was all glass. So we'll be bringing it back to its original condition. And then a few other small expenditures in the capital budget. As you may know, when you look at our expenditure by the department, almost 93% of the funds in our budget go to personnel and all related items associated with personnel. The other 7.5% goes to expenditures. And, the contracts are a very important part of the fire service, and the firefighters make up that part of the budget that you'll see is quite large. We did our best. We really can't control any of the expenditure costs for the personnel. That was negotiated, and we just fill in the cracks. There was some education incentives. That was a significant increase you'll see in the line item, and that was well-deserved. The firefighters are going out and they're getting their education, and they're coming to us educated, and many, many more are reaping the benefits from that program, so therefore it's a little more expensive. And then our utility costs, when I go to the expenditure side, everything has gone up. Stuff we buy for the trucks, you can buy an axe at Home Depot for $65, but if you buy an axe for a fire truck, it's almost $500. And that's the case with everything related. If you call it fire or related to fire, it's expensive. A repot for the trucks, everything like that. So we constantly try to utilize the most we can and make things work the best we can, but there's just no way around it. This stuff has gone up in cost. All our equipment, all our tools, all our technology, our tablets, everything, we all see it day in, day out. But we still kept our expenditures, I think, at a level that is acceptable. So that's where I'll end, unless I miss something and someone would like me to go in a different direction. I'll be available here for questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. A lot of great information and exciting projects there. Questions from the council on personnel and expenditures, and then we'll move on to the capital stuff. Councilor Trowski.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Thank you, Chief Dion, for coming to speak with us tonight. I'm glad we have some time to talk with you, because I think you were busy the first time we were going to meet with you, but this is really interesting.
Thank you for accommodating my change. I was away.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
This is important stuff. Yeah. Everything's important, but this is also important. This is safety. I'm really happy to hear the news about the energy efficiency. And when you look at the budget, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like you're actually anticipating significant decreases in what you're going to, on page 407, significant decreases. It looks like 10.7% in oil heat and 2 to 3% in electricity and natural gas. So we're seeing some returns on that right away, which is great.
The oil heat is still unfortunately being used down at Station 6, which is at the Willows, and we have no plans to do any work down there other than just to keep the building functioning and weather tight. There's also oil-fed water heater at Station 4 and Station 2, and I'm going to phase those out with some on-demands eventually. I think we can swing that out of our maintenance budget and eventually get rid of those. I'd love to sit here one day and not have an oil line in my budget. That's my goal.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
And I'm also very happy to see the efficiencies of in-house labor for all these capital or the projects that you're referencing.
As am I.
Station.
I can't tell you how much they do for this community and for this department. They're amazing. Yeah.
It's great to be able to keep that in-house, and I'm sure some people like doing that kind of stuff too. I don't. But.
I did when I was on the trucks, and I used to love working on the projects. I worked with Councilor Flynn painting fire stations. He wasn't a good painter.
Also appreciate that there's an effort to maintain some vehicles, or in the case of Engine 4, that can get down smaller streets, because I know that's especially in like the Derby Street neighborhood, it's really tough to get down some of those little side streets in the lab.
We are 100% NFPA compliant with our apparatus that we design, but it is the smallest apparatus you can design and still get the job done. And if you look at them, they're not that big, and the guys love driving them. You can get around this community. The days of big fire trucks in Salem are gone. We're just getting rid of the last one. Our reserve pump, Engine 6, will be going to surplus and auctioned off and be gone happily. I can't wait to see it drive away. And no more big trucks in Salem. Even the next ladder truck we're speccing will be the similar size to what we just purchased. We need smaller ladder trucks as well. And we're buying simpler trucks. No bells, no whistles. Well, in this case, there's probably bells. But it's hydraulics. There's no electrical controls and fancy this, fancy that. We're going to the basics. There's less to break, and they'll last longer. But smaller trucks, they're the best. Yeah.
Less wear and tear on our roads, too.
Exactly, yes.
And then the only thing I really wanted to hear more about was the risks with the offshore wind terminal. Can you explain a little bit more about what kind of increased safety measures you expect to see or expect to need when that comes online?
I've been very involved with that project since inception, and we identify some areas of concern. Battery storage is one of my biggest concerns. As you know, battery storage is not what it's made out to be. Even in the Midwest, and when they're in the middle of nowhere, when there's a problem, it's a problem. I'm concerned of what type of battery storage they'll have down there. We do have an agreement, CBA, with the builders, and that will benefit the fire department with additional equipment and training. I'd like to see even more. I think we can handle what we have coming in, but we have to be prepared, and we have to be trained, and they need to prepare us, and they need to train us, and I will insist that they do. So the only unknown variable is if anything on that site is used extensively for electric storage, battery storage. That's a great concern to me, and it should be a concern to this community, and everybody's, head should be up and paying attention to that. I know that the mayor has been, and we've discussed this extensively, so.
As the counselor for the ward that houses that facility, I'm excited to work with you on it and hear what your concerns are and learn from you and see what we can do to keep it safe.
This is uncharted territory nationwide. I serve on the lithium-ion battery consortium for the National Firefighters Association, and I travel twice a year to go to these meetings, and we all sit there and scratch our heads. We have been doing some regulatory work through the Congress, and it's just not a friendly environment to get this. We've had some great bills make it all the way through the House, only to be killed by Ted Cruz in the Senate. And I'm sorry I said his name. Until this environment changes, the regulatory oversight that we need, and it's not just the big batteries, it's the little batteries that are in your kids' skateboards and so forth. These batteries need to come from reputable sources. They shouldn't be coming from third world countries, and they have no thermal runaway protection in a battery this big that can blow up like a bomb. And they're blowing up. They're killing people nationwide. We have the technology, we have the way to make the rules so that these batteries won't be allowed to come into this country and be used in any of these toys or appliances or weed whackers or anything like that unless they meet our standards, thermal runaway protection, and they'll smoke and fail, but they won't blow up. Right now, there's none of that happening, so thanks for listening. I kind of digressed.
So for folks who are listening at home, the offshore wind terminal project does not include a battery storage system, but it was one of the potential alternative uses that was articulated that could be done on the site in lieu of the offshore wind terminal. And I think for many of the reasons the chief expressed and others, it was a non-starter.
Thank you. Councilor King.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Davis. This was a fantastic overview. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to hear about the smaller trucks. I will just say, as long as that ladder truck can reach Santa Claus on top of the Hawthorne Hotel.
105 feet, we get them.
Okay, that's really my top priority. So I just have a really quick question. I see that you don't have, there's like the data for like the number of calls that you receive. Yeah. And the data is, I assume, blank for 2026 and 2027 because it's very hard to predict the type of thing. But since we're nearing, well into 2026, I'm wondering, do you have a sense of any Have you seen
Yeah.
any like fluctuations in specific types of calls?
Yes.
year? Okay, which ones have you seen more of?
Fires. We've had more fires this year than my entire career. I think we've already had 13 working fires in here. It's unheard of. We had a fatality, and that was a horrible day. And we've had just fires, lots of fires. It's been a busy, busy stretch. As Councilor Merkel said, it was a heck of a tough winter, and I think some of that can be attributed to our call volume increase this year. No specific call stands out. We still do a lot of medicals. Depending on how we track the medicals, there's anywhere from 42 to 4,900 calls per year for medical. That's a lot. That's at least, I'd say 2/3 of what we're doing. And then the response for alarms and so forth, and then, of course, the fires and rescues and so forth. Everything's on the uptick this year. I don't know why. There's no meaning to it. The fires can't be attributed to the cold. They were on 40-degree days. It's just, there's no pattern to the madness. It just happens. This number is real statewide as well. The marshal and I were talking at my most recent meeting with him, and he's astounded at the number of fires and fatal fires we've had in Massachusetts. And I'm hoping this trend stops. We'll get back to where we belong. So,
Yeah, no, it's terrible. The fatality was in my neighborhood. That's super interesting. So like literally not even like type of property, multis versus singles.
It's everything. It's all across the board. There's no meaning to our business. You could work a stormy night in February and say, oh boy, we're going to be busy, and you go out twice, and then you a quiet Tuesday in May and you do 28 runs. There's just no science, no logic. It just comes in weird ways. And, a couple of those days we had 3 fires in one day. We had 3 fires on one Saturday, and it's amazing to deal with that. So, but we got it.
Thank you for your work. That's
Thank you for the support.
interesting to know. Yeah.
I blame Ted Cruz for the increase in fires. President Merkel.
Yes, thank you, Chair Davis, and thank you, Chief, for coming in. I've listened to year after year, and it's always amazing to me how much you pack into each year. I always wait for this because there's so much to hear about. I remember hearing about the radio project and the upgrade and the impact.
Tired of talking about it. I'm glad it's over.
Wow. I have to say congratulations.
Thank you. We got it across the line. Fred Ryan over at Police Captain Ryan. And we got it across the line.
I remember all the details on that, so that's phenomenal. And as the Ward 1 councilor has said, your environmental commitment to sustainability efforts, and that's a heavy lift with old buildings. And overall, budget related, I've watched you always talk about getting the cutting edge safety, for the public and your teams, and also being mindful of the budget. Like you've balanced it. I remember you coming in so excited. I found a used vehicle because these ones are, off the charts. And so I really want to reference that, that you strike that balance, even to, the firefighters, putting in their own lockers, because I remember I found that fascinating to learn about how unhealthy the equipment can be. And you talked about that last year, and then hearing this again. So it's just following all this year after year, and how you managed to do that with the budget that you have. I really want to point that out. And yeah, again, the weather, I just saw you out there all the time and your teams, and it was frozen pipes, just endless. And also, we had talked about how the increase in, it's not, you call them the wildland fires, and I remember you were looking, for a vehicle for that. With the increase in that, I assume that's something we can expect with the climate crisis each year. Do you feel we've, provided enough in the budget? I know sometimes drones can be used for fires, for the wildfires.
I'm a big fan of the drones, Counselor.
Yeah, is there anything more we can do for you and your department?
Thank you.
I know how hard you're working, and that's increasing.
I think the truck we have is more than enough to get us where we need to be. The technology-wise, we're always looking at anything and everything, and I have chosen not to go the drone route because the police have, and I work so well with those folks. All of us do. They're a phone call away, and we have 3 drones, and they're with us. They're thrilled to be there with us, and Chief Miller will be there, and we always have them for us. So I'm not going to waste money and buy drones for us. We used our money to buy thermal images, which was actually donated by a merchant here in Salem, but we spent $78,000 on thermal images, and that's what we chose to spend our money, and they chose to spend it on the drones, which was really a good mix. Right now, Counselor, nothing comes to mind. I know that I am watching all the trends. I'm watching the technology. I don't miss any of the shows. I see what's out there. I see what people are doing, and I talk to my other chiefs. So I have a good handle on what we may need, but right now I think we have a good plan in place. We're continually working our capital long-term plans so that we're not caught off guard with vehicles that need to be replaced in 20 years. We have a plan to change them now, so they won't go that long. So those are some of the things I work on.
Yes, thank you. I remember you've talked about before how long it is. You have to get in the queue for vehicles because they take an incredible amount of time. And the police chief had mentioned that you share drones as well when he was here, and the thermal imaging that's super as well. And one last comment: we've had those conversations about the batteries because we get a lot of questions from the public, and you've educated me along the lines about.
And you're a scooter rider.
Yes, we had these conversations for many reasons. I remember even a 20-minute phone conversation. So it's not only, I just want to point out, not only are you watching out for, for what you're involved with in the city, that education has helped me pass along accurate information to our residents that have reached out and businesses. So I want to mention how important those conversations have been. So thank you for your getting that off your chest tonight too, because it has been helpful.
Councilor Davis, if I may, I'd like to also, when you said we do a good job on the budget, I need to give credit where it's due. We have a wizard behind the curtain, and that's my office manager, Ashley Sullivan. She runs my books for me, and when I sit down with her, I have great success because of her. I just want to give credit where it's due.
Mayor?
Oh, I was just going to expand on the notion of preparing for like future brush fires, and not just about being related to apparatus and technology or equipment, but also the personnel. In the latest contract, we added forestry as one of the educational credentials that we're providing compensation for, because we want to make sure that the firefighters that are bringing that skill set to the job are being recognized as well.
Councilor Zadoryak.
I just have 2 quick questions. Thank you, Chair Davis, and thank you for the presentation and all that you do. And not to keep this tangent going on for too long, but I do work in emergency management, and so I'm curious to know within the budget or the capabilities, training, equipment that you have for these battery issues, and I'm thinking more of vehicles, right? Mm-hmm. Do we have the equipment and training, the ideas of doing like water shields? Because these batteries, you can't put them out, right? You have to let them go until it's done. And so if it's next to a building, particularly in the denser area of downtown, like do we actually have the capability
we do.
to prevent that?
We have trained extensively. There's a myriad of training opportunities online, which we take advantage of to see how other people have fought these types of fires. You can watch their videos. You can see what they did, how they failed, how they succeeded. In the nation, the thing now is everybody has a blanket, and it doesn't sound like much, but it's a blanket that's large enough to cover a working van, electrician's van. They're large, they're heavy, and they're fire resistant, and that would contain and darken down a battery fire to the extent where we could hold it in place and then hopefully remove the vehicle from where it is and get it somewhere safer to burn. If it happened to be in a driveway, or God forbid in our East India parking garage, there's no sprinklers in that building, it could take the garage to the ground. Might be a good thing, but the danger with the electrical vehicle fires is real. We also have capabilities to when we show up at an accident, we're purchasing, and we're still waiting for it to arrive. They're on back order. A plug where you plug it in the car, and that disables disables the vehicle, we don't have to worry about the vehicle operating or moving or anything like that. And it's coincidental that you brought up, we're looking into vessels to put batteries in, not car batteries, but, a small battery that might be experiencing a runaway. We could put it in a vessel. Some of them have baffles in them with water. Some have mineralized sands in baffles and so forth, and then you seal the container. And if it were to explode or continue to burn, it would limit the danger until you could bring it to a safer place and let it do its thing, whether it's a quarry, an empty parking lot, or something like that. So we're looking at those as well. I do have money earmarked to buy those containers, yes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And my other question is in regards to mutual aid. I know really the most important thing to get out of it is specialized equipment, but can you speak to the implications of the budget, especially since it may seem like we are giving more than receiving, and knowing that it's really important to always show up when someone asks for help, but what are the implications of the budget if we are putting more out there than receiving?
I dare say that it's amazing. It always seems to even out year to year. Our guys love going out of town. There's a shortage of ladder trucks in the region, and if our ladder happens to be out of service because we're just at minimum manning and we're not manning enough people to put it in, if another community calls for a ladder, our Engine 4 crew will hop over and take that ladder, mutual aid. If they call for a pump, we only send one vehicle, though. We won't send a pump and a ladder out of town. We just send one. Either you get the pump or the ladder. And as I mentioned, it always seems to even out year after year. Never have I had a mutual aid situation where it's killing the budget. Most of our communities that we immediate about, they're all well-staffed. They're all well-run and well-trained. When you get up into some of the more rural areas, they're well-trained and incredibly driven, but unfortunately, they have staffing issues and equipment issues. But they're willing to work and train. You might run into some communities up there where they draw more on each other. I see a regional effort already happening in some of those towns. When I talk Boxford, Newberry, Georgetown, Topsfield, they're almost mutual. They're almost regionalized now. They can't operate without their neighbors. A simple medical call would some towns just leave two people back for the trucks. Fortunately, we don't have that nightmare here in Salem. So, but when I speak to the communities that mostly touch us, we're all more metro regions. We resemble metro fire departments. Metro being the city ones that we all know, but we are a metro community, and I think everybody we abut is also metro. So it works out in the end. And maybe this year we did a little more to Beverly, but the year after they did a little more. If I took a chart and looked at it all over the numbers, and I know they do this at District 5 and in the county meetings, it all works out. So no, it's not a concern. We have the capabilities to send a truck out of town and hire 3 guys back, so we're not understaffed while that truck's out of town, and it's budgeted for. And it's usually pretty close to what we spend every year. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilors,
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Chief, how are you? Good evening.
Thank you.
Good. I have a quick question on the EMT line. Is that's a pay bump line? So that would be, it's page 407. It's on a couple of these pages.
Sure.
It's gone from 45,000 to 64 to 170 to 276 the last few years. Is that?
So we just finished negotiations about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago for the new contract.
Okay.
And what a firefighter was making to be trained as an EMT, they were making on average about $600 a year to maintain that license, which is an exorbitant amount of hours to maintain the license. And it's 60% of what they're doing. So the union came and they wanted more compensation in the form of a stipend for that work. And by giving it in the form of the EMT stipend, that's why you saw the increase. And the increases have been fixed for about 2.5 years now at the current rate.
And so that's accounted for as well by that you have 87 out of 101 people are
I have 89 firefighters and 87 are EMTs. There's
Wow.
two holdouts that don't have it.
Don't want to do it.
We were laughing because he knows who they are.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't required to get them, and I ain't getting it. But everybody that comes in now has it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I figured that was a pay bump line. It wasn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that makes sense so that we have a lot of those guys on staff. And that ends up
Yeah.
being about 60% of what they do, you said, I think.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And what we have here in the fire department, our guys aren't, taking an EMT job and working 3 years for a private ambulance company and then moving on. Our guys stay 25, 30 years. That's a lot of experience on the street coming through the door with the best equipment money can buy. We have the best AEDs, the best CPR machines, all the best of everything. The only thing we don't have is an ambulance to transport. But we bring years and years and years of experience, and we're in the door first almost all the time because we're situated in every neighborhood of the city, and if we're in position where they're fast. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you see the fire service doing EMS calls, and that's nationwide, not just here in our department. And it's a great trend, and it's a logical evolution for something you'll always need. You'll always need the fire service, and this is a logical evolution for the fire service to take over EMS.
Makes sense. That was my only question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Flynn.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Thank you, Chief, for coming tonight.
My pleasure.
There are a couple of things I wanted to touch on that does affect the budget in a positive way is I just want to echo the station work. I don't know if the councils really realize how much is saved by the firefighters doing all this work. I mean, when you do a job at your house, how much is labor compared to product? You know what I mean? It's a huge savings. And one thing I wanted to say is you could probably understand the condition of the stations 15, 20 years ago were pretty rough, you know what I mean? A lot of problems with the buildings, and basically your staff have made them into a better situation because we live in these buildings.
You have an incredible amount of pride. They just
History, the pride.
Yeah, they're very proud of what they do, and they're proud of these buildings.
Yes, and it's also a safety issue. It's safer for our workers to have an environment that is appropriate. So I just want the councilors to understand how much money is saved budgetary every year. Just the locker, like you said,
Yeah, huge.
$30,000 in labor saved. So I want to applaud your firefighters for that. The second thing, it kind of is budgetary for the future. I want to applaud you and the mayor. I've noticed with this administration, as firefighters retire, the seats are filled pretty quick, the way they should be.
We've changed how we do it. We establish a reserve list now. They wane on that reserve list. Could be up to 2 years, but as soon as we're ready, we just take them. They start in 2 weeks. And that's not, didn't come without pain.
No.
We have gotten to that point now. Yeah.
Well, again, I want the councils to understand without that, you're going to burn through overtime because, you know what, you're short bodies. But you and the mayor have made our fire department fully staffed in keeping with that, and I applaud that.
Thank you.
One last thing is, I've noticed when you took over as chief, you've done a great job fixing up the buildings and with the capital improvements, having these trucks replaced, so we are ready for when you retire into the future. You know what I mean? We have some, well,
He said I'm not retiring. I have my years.
I think you did a great job for whoever is the next chief, preparing the department, the personnel, the stations, the equipment, because you need all three to have a successful fire department. And I've lived this with you for the last 30-something years. So I want to applaud you, really, firsthand. I've seen what you did, and I really appreciate what you did. I got to work with you as my chief, and I get to see what you're doing even in my retirement. So thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you. And thank Ashley as well.
Yeah.
She's
The brains.
She really does. I want the staff to know, the councils to know, that she really does an outstanding job. I've seen different secretaries in your office over our careers,
Yeah.
and I've never seen anyone like Ashley, the work she does, and it definitely makes your job easier, obviously.
She
And she's just
babysits 89 firefighters.
She does, and she does an excellent job. So thank you, thank Ashley, and thank you, firefighters.
Thanks, Counselor.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor King.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I move to recommend the approval of the Fire Department personnel budget in the amount of $11,442,438.
Council King moves to recommend approval of the fire personnel budget in the amount of $11,442,438, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? See 5 hands and oh, the matter carries. Council King.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I move to recommend approval of the fire department expenditures budget in the amount of $477,626.
Council King moves to recommend approval of the fire expenditures budget in the amount of $477,626, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? See 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. And for the public's knowledge, that brings us to a department total of $11,920,064. And then we will do the capital improvement program. So we'll go back to the red tab, 7, capital improvement programs. This will be on page 244. Chief, you already spoke to this a bit. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I think I hit on all of them. I forgot to mention the fire alarm panels. The Master Box project is progressing. We've successfully lobbied almost all the affected business and property owners. I think we have probably 15 or 16 left that still need to change over. That will be done within the week. Other than that, we're ready to decommission all the boxes in the buildings. And what we identified when they installed the new monitoring central station for the fire stations, our fire alarm panels are over 40 years old. And they're not a lot of money to change if we do it in-house. So I included that amount in the line. We're going to buy them ourselves, hire a contractor to install them for us, and they'll be better suited to work with the new fire alerting systems, the central station, because God forbid fire stations can burn down. And it has happened. So I wanted to modernize that. And one of the final things I'm modernizing.
Questions from the council? All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Chief Tyler.
Thank you, councilors.
All right, we'll be going on to the Transportation Department. On tab 8, page 359 has the budget summary, and we'll welcome Dave Kucharski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David Kucharski, Director of the Transportation Department. Our department consists of 24 individuals, myself included. The majority of the staff focuses on parking operations. So we oversee 2 city garages, several off-street parking lots, metered parking, as well as the resident permit parking program. So again, a lot of our staff is focused on those daily activities. We have a number of garage supervisors that work at the 2 city garages, helping residents and visitors with their payments if there's questions, but also manning phones if we need to send enforcement out to specific areas to address any parking violations. We have enforcement staff that go out to do that as well, and we have mechanical staff that repair meters and also do custodial work around the garages and the lots as needed, as well as some security staff and other part-time. The rest of us, myself and 3 other staff, we focus on doing parking policy, any parking programs we have, coming up with ordinances, working with the Transportation Commission, but we also oversee the city's Complete Streets project, our neighborhood traffic calming program, as well as the recently completed Safe Streets Action Plan, which looking at all of that is in conjunction with our Bike Master Plan to try to move forward implementing projects, prioritizing where we would want to put the funding based on the results of those various studies and reports that we've recently completed. Looking through our budget, just some of the changes, that most of it's level funded. but looking on page 359, you will see an increase in the overtime budget. We were asked this year to provide additional staffing that we do in October, but this is also intended to cover some things throughout the year. Given the nature of the supervisor's work, if a supervisor is out sick, we need to call in another supervisor to cover those hours, because we do need someone to be physically present in those facilities as much as we're able to while they're open for operations. I'd also like to note that under building equipment and maintenance, there's a reduction of $12,000. As some of you may know, this past fall, we removed all of the kiosks that served a lot of our off-street lots. We found that replacing them with upgraded software and hardware was just not, it was cost prohibitive. So we've gone forward with using the app, but we still have plenty of street meters as well as a few lots that still have meters for those options for folks to use. I think another thing to note is under contracted services. You'll note that we're no longer under the new Blue Bike Share program, which we oversee. Cities and towns are no longer required to pay for monthly operations under that new agreement. So we're hoping to use more money to utilize working with on-call contractors to do either smaller tactical traffic calming programs, help us look at that, but also if we want to start design work for a larger capital project. A lot of times we will start that effort and then work with the engineering department, sort of hand it off once it's ready to go to full construction. Again, some of the other programs we do oversee, in addition to the Blue Bikes, is the skipper service, which I know everyone's aware of the current financial issues with that. But again, our focus is a lot of coordination between the engineering department, DPS, police, you heard earlier, electric department. We're somewhat still relatively new. We were created in 2016, I think, as a way to link a lot of these departments that were doing certain things related to traffic and parking. But our efforts are really to help just coordinate everyone else's, especially working with the state. MassDOT has a lot of projects going on within the community, and our department helps to facilitate organizing meetings with them, providing feedback, getting other departments to weigh in on projects that they're looking at. So happy to pause there, answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Questions from the council? Councilor Turowski.
Thank you, Mr. Kucharski. I'm glad we saved the best for last tonight, and thank you for staying to the end of this meeting. Really appreciate the work you've put forward. I do want to bring attention to two of the online tools that I find very useful, and I'm happy that you provide them. The traffic calming program and the traffic calming priority request tool are really useful. I recommend people use those all the time if they say, how do I ask for speed bumps on my street? And I know I've said this before, but I just want to reiterate that having those tools available online and available 24 hours a day is really important to people who may not otherwise feel comfortable or have the time to come into an office and request those services in person. So I think that's a huge equity issue. I'm happy to see that we account for that and provide for people who may not be able to make it in to ask for those things specifically in person. Really appreciative of the work with the Complete Streets program and the Safe Streets for All program. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Russell Finley too, because I know he does a lot of data analysis and puts a lot of those maps together, and I just find them so fascinating and so useful, and really just good information when somebody says, like, how many crashes have we had on my street? You know, have we had, somebody says, oh, we had somebody seriously wounded here, and I'm like, and I can look and pull things up and say, like, well, we had property damage, but somebody wasn't hurt. So I think the transparency there is really important too. I did want to ask about Blue Bikes. now that there's a pathway for other cities in the region to become more involved in that with the removal of the fee, have there been any talks with Beverly?
We've had some preliminary discussions with them. We're also hoping to partner with MAPC to schedule a meeting with all the abutting communities to work with them. There's a certain distance from an existing dock where you could add another one, so we're also looking within our own borders to possibly place some in more strategic locations to even make it easier for some of our neighbors to then come on board and work with them. We've been very successful working with MAPC to get grants for additional docks and bikes, so that's how we've been funding the capital side of it. But yes, certainly not having to pay those operations fees I think will open it up and make us more of a hub. The expansion, I think, is good to go out, especially with other roadway projects that are coming online in the next several years.
Yeah, I think having a network in the North Shore could be really advantageous to people as we look for ways that people can get between cities. Like, our commuter rail doesn't go between Salem and Peabody, but if we could get blue bikes there, it would make it a lot easier for people to go there and to connect to the other rail trails too. So thank you. I'm happy to hear that. I also wanted to, what was my other question? Oh, the skipper. We have at least, a bulk of the data, and we know where people were using it to. We can mine that data and find out like where hubs were, where popular routes were. I think there will probably be some motivation to have some kind of a committee meeting to discuss that in the future. But I do think it would be useful to look at that data a little bit more objectively and see like which employers, which institutions were relying on that as a way to get people to and from their facilities, and that's maybe where we can lean on to find support to fill the gap that's left as the skipper phases out in the summer. Because I do know I've gotten so much feedback from residents like this is going away, this is going to be really detrimental to how I get to work, how I get to the doctor's office, how I socialize with people. So I think using that data to the best of our ability to try to find some kind of replacement to fill that gap is going to be really important. And I do want to, I'm excited to get into that process. I think that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Zadoryak.
Thank you, Chair Davis, and thank you for joining us tonight. I really just have two questions related to the Safe Streets for All implementation, the planning, and full disclosure, I do merit evaluations of these on the federal government for communities, so this is not advice. And the first question stems from really a comment from earlier in regards to the different countermeasures that are at our disposal and could be included within a Safe Streets for All action plan. Is it right that there are certain countermeasures that we're restricted because of ordinance or city policy?
When you say countermeasures, you mean certain types of traffic calming measures?
Well, so a safety countermeasure, the concurrent lighting is a safety countermeasure. That has a crash modification factor that does reduce or known to reduce incidents. Apparently we're restricted from using that. At least that's what the comment was tonight.
I think there was pushback from the public to implement it. We had started, Ms. Giardi and myself, as well as police, we had started looking at implementing it, and there was pushback to go back to the exclusive phase.
So it was more just
public
engagement factor rather than restrictions on.
Not to speak for Mr. Giardi, but I think he was saying we need more support from council, and I believe the mayor's in support of it, but I think there's more that there's nothing restricting us from doing it. It's just having the will to implement it and stick with it. But the technology is there to make the lights that he's working on concurrent.
Right. And so my other question is in regards to the implementation of the Safe Streets for All action plan. Ideally, the most effective way of doing it is having a holistic, sort of systematic approach, right, where there's multiple different safety countermeasures, not only a part of the plan, but they are implemented or installed at the same time. are we doing this in a patchwork way where we're only doing one set and one specific type of countermeasure or like feature? Or are we actually able to do in certain areas that have a whole set of different things working in harmony with one another? So like, for instance, the way lighting works with pedestrian crosswalks and just how everything comes together.
I know that the electrical department has been phasing the smart signal program based on corridors. So the last one that they were working on was all of North Street, which included north at Essex all the way up, I believe, including the fire station signal and the PED signal that's up by Liberty Hill Ave. So when he's been implementing it, they've been doing it by corridor, not just a single light. So it's putting in the PED activations, it's putting in the camera work so that the signals are coordinated, so they could, when a queue begins, they're able to speak to each other, or when the PED signal itself is hit, they're able to communicate with each other.
So they're all being sort of implemented at the same time, and it's not really waiting on whatever prioritization process might come with the tip.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor King.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, but first, I guess a comment more so. It's really a shame because, I mean, you say right in here that continue to build on ridership and partnerships with the Salem Skipper service. It sounds like you also were not aware that the Skipper was going away when you wrote this, I would guess.
Well, at the time, we had submitted a grant for a larger amount of money that we were hopeful we would receive, and that we wrote this before we had been notified of the amount we were getting.
Valid, yeah. And I know it's a slippery slope to use any type of grant funding for like an operational expense, but it's a bummer. I wish we had like moved some of the CDBG or CPA funds into the Skipper for this year, right, to fund that. I don't know. Maybe we'll get another chance. But so in terms of questions, I noticed the roughly 5,000 citation decrease from fiscal year 2024 to 2025, and then that has continued. So 5,000 fewer citations from 40,000 down to roughly 35,000. Do you have a sense of what's driving that drop that we've seen and has been maintained, and is it expected to continue?
I'm not certain. There's some things, and I think we spoke about this at previous meetings, we are seeing more compliance when it comes to the resident permit parking. I think part of that has to do with that we've raised the fines. I think another factor is, again, just behavior. We're seeing visitors come stretched out, beginning more in September and October, so there's probably more capacity for people to do the right thing. Plus, we're seeing the ridership on the train, so they're not even, some folks are not coming in. So just looking at October, but weather can sometimes play a role. Just if you're not having as much parking activity, people are not coming in, so it can vary. So I think those are some of the reasons you're seeing that reduction.
Thank you. And then I noticed that you have a lot of the revenue line items, but I don't see revenue from the resident parking program here. Is that included in one of these, or would that be a separate line item that's just not listed out?
That would be separate, but all the funds do go in the general fund, but we don't identify it here.
My idea for next year, if we could include that would be great, because I am curious about that one. And then I had one other question. Yeah, so I'm looking through the expenditures. I'm not seeing any expenditure for our contract with the Passport Parking app, or, and I think that's the same app we use to administer the resident parking program, right? So where would that be in the budget? Because I know that we discussed this at a meeting a while ago, and I also went to the IT budget, and I couldn't find it there. So do you have any sense of where it would be?
So the way that it's been worked, the funds come directly to us when the exchanges are made, when a user pays, and any convenience fees, and then Passport will invoice us, and the funds that come in will be paid that. So it's coming out of what's being generated. It's not a separate.
Okay, so then I guess my question then also for next year is, because that makes sense that it wouldn't be in the budget because it's not something we're being invoiced and then paying the invoice, it's just coming out of our revenue. But if we could maybe include that in the performance measures or something for next year, just so we have a sense of what that type of software is costing us.
Sure.
Yeah, those are my only questions. Thank you.
Counselor Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on that same line, with the resident parking system, we use license plate readers, and there's also a cost, presumably, beyond staff costs, which are obviously reflected here. Where would that cost be and live within the expenditures?
So do you mean for the cameras that would, say, go on the vehicles?
That would be the first one, and then the second would be the cost of implementation of the program with, going online and we hear about it a lot, putting a plate in, signing up.
So that, again, that whenever that exchange is done, the money comes directly to the city, and then Passport keeps track of all of the permits that are issued, and then issue us an invoice and we pay it back. For actual equipment, we have equipment line items under operations that we cover under our operations budget. It's multiple things, so it's not just Passport equipment, but it could be other equipment related to the garage. It's not specifically called out. It's just we're now including it as part of equipment that we have, whether it's the equipment for the LPR system or other things that we use for other daily activities.
Is it the line item that says miscellaneous? No, that's office equipment. Is it data fees? No, that's gone. I'm going to keep guessing until you find it. Consultants?
Yes, 5255. Thank you, Mayor.
Building and equipment maintenance, garage repairs, I'm seeing garage systems maintenance service, general building maintenance,
Yep.
striping, flushing, storm pipe. It's in there somewhere.
Yes.
And so that's the cameras that are, you can call them LPRs. I know we're not.
I mean, we purchased them outright, and we just have a warranty at this point that if for some reason something broke, we'd have to go in and pay for it.
So there's not a large fee of tens of thousands of dollars to implement that per year?
The upfront costs at the time were, which council had appropriated, but now it's just running as part of just a regular.
So the idea that we hear a lot, it costs a lot up front, and it costs a certain amount every year, that's just not true. That's not there. So we paid that fee, and now we're using the equipment. It has a warranty. There's not a continuing monthly fee or whatever it might be, like a membership fee.
And the handhelds that the officers, that is under communications and phones, because they're droid phones that each of the parking enforcement are issued, and that's what they're using when they're issuing tickets. And then we have under the paper for the tickets, that's also under another item. So it's under different things.
It's under different things.
Yeah.
But I mean, roughly, you put this all together, it's a couple $1,000s maybe that's going to this resident parking program, and not hundreds of thousands of dollars or something to implement something. That's really good. A lot less than I thought. Thank you.
Anything else from the council? All right, Councilor King.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I move to recommend the approval of the Transportation Department personnel budget in the amount of $1,399,754.
Council King moves to approve the Department of Transportation personnel budget in the amount of $1,399,754, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. Councilor King.
I move to recommend the approval of the Transportation Department expenditures budget in the amount of $452,210.
Council King moves to recommend approval of the Department of Transportation expenditures budget in the amount of $452,210, seconded by Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? I see 5 hands, including my own. The matter carries. And for the public's knowledge, that brings us to a department total of $1,851,964. And then we have the capital improvement on page 246, back to the red tab. Anything you'd like to speak to here?
Just to indicate, a lot of these are annual things that give us the flexibility to do smaller projects, but also we have more specific design that you'll see this year. And again, a lot of that is coming out of the Safe Streets for All action plan that we're starting to move on developing those.
Great. Any questions from the council? Councilor Flynn?
Thank you, Chair Davis. Just one quick question. With traffic calming measures citywide, I know, over the years, different neighborhoods would try something, and then it might not work and be taken away, whether it's the speed humps or whatever. Do you have a surplus of equipment that's not being used now? Or is everything that you have, does it shift from one year to the next where, if it didn't work on Valley Street, we're using it now over off of Mason Street? You follow what I'm saying? Or is there a surplus that you have ready to go if you want to do something right away?
We did have a surplus of the speed humps, which then we were able to identify and put out at another location. So when we do know we have, if it's not going to go out in one area, we try to use them in another location to see how they will work. Maybe they'll work differently or not. So.
Council King.
Not a question, just a thank you for prioritizing the redesign for Salem Street. I know that's like the biggest line item here. That is absolutely huge for just our schools with Carlton and Saltonstall now combining for the new Sarah at Ramon Elementary School. So that's just awesome to make our kids feel safer and come to school. And thank you for all your work with the community and myself on those meetings. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the council? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kucharski.
Okay. Thank you.
I will take one more motion.
Thank you.
Council King.
I motion to adjourn.
Council King motions to adjourn. We have a second from Councilor Flynn. All those in favor? We are adjourned.